Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, goblins and ghouls, vampires and vampiresses, to another episode of On the Slab Horror Show with me, as always, your host, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, joined, as always, by my left arm and my right arm, the G-Man, Greg Flanagan, and of course, the mighty Carl King Woe. Today we have a very, very special episode for you. As you can see, we are joined by two familiar faces, of course. We have Aron today, who is actually going to be doing something pretty special for us, and we'll let him plug his stuff in momentarily as well, because he'd do a better job than us, than any of us on his own stuff. But he's here for a particular reason today, so we'll let that one sit for just a moment. And of course, as always, another kind of leg or arm or some sort of limb that is always appearing on the show. It is, of course, Ted Irvin from Retrotainment. So lads, welcome to the show. I'm going to take care of a bit of business before we let people know what we're doing today, because as everyone knows, we are now on the sponsorship ladder. That is right. We are proud to announce that we're sponsored by, and today's show is brought to you by Fright Rags, the best horror merch on the planet, in my opinion. You can go to, what we have for you first and foremost is a special offer where you can get a discount on some of this unreal merch, whether you're into Halloween, whether you're into any John Carpenter film, actually. So I'm getting my plug out there. Dude, they have pretty much everything. They've got like unbelievable long sleeves, hoodies. In fact, if you're a Crow fan, check out that long sleeve Crow top. It's actually one of my favorites, which I'm definitely
Hangman Page one.
Oh man, unbelievable. So all you need to do is basically go to frightrags.com and you enter a special promo code, which you will see on the video here. Our graphics man Carl will make sure that is there throughout the show. So please do take advantage of that. Enter the promo code OTS Horror 10, which you will see below, for a sweet discount. And they have a new Halloween tree line that they've just brought out as well, which I think is sexy. I can see Aron there is going.
Ian's broke.
I didn't want to cut in there. I was like, it's probably the first time in like 6 months that I haven't been wearing a Fright Rag shirt. But I do actually have the Halloween Fright Rags hat, the dad
hat, man. Sweet hat, yeah.
Representing.
Yeah. Well, look, let's get down to business. Even though we've taken care of business, we're going to take care of more business now. Aron today is joining us because he is going to act as a special adjudicator today, a judge and a jury. Some of that retrotainment flavor coming in here. We've got a debate going on. Shout out to Carl Sherlock, actually. That's usually his baby, so we kind of stole your idea. It wasn't my idea, so I just so you know, Carl. But we decided that we were going to do a 2-on-2 debate style battle with yours truly and Carl King, because we usually roll together, and of course the Retrotainment boys, even though Greg is an OTS boy as well. But we'll call it the Retrotainment boys today, and they are going to be in the corner and basically vying for Dog Soldiers versus our American Werewolf in London, and Aron is here to adjudicate. First and foremost, Aron, plug your shit, always do, and then you can tell us why you chose to go ahead and be part of this mess.
I was actually thinking about it earlier, and I was like, do I really want to get in the middle of this argument?
At least you're safe on camera.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm really far away. Congrats on the sponsorship, actually.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to. I wanted to get involved when I first heard you were going to do it, because these are two films that I'd have a hard time, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm interested to see the arguments that come up now and see will it sway me one way or the other. Other than that, www.classhorrorcast.com or reach out on Instagram at First Class Horror. They're the two places where I'm most active. Going to be doing a lot of interviews this year with a lot of different people. So yeah.
And of course, we will obviously put the links in the description below and stuff there. Carl probably have a nice little graphic there as you were doing your intro, just to show people where they can find you as well. Carl loves this shit. So
Carl is king.
he is king when it comes to that.
No
Well, look,
pun
Aron,
intended.
well, without further ado, I am no longer your host for today. We have handed it over to Aron. Aron, you are now in the lead. OTS is yours.
Okay, so I guess I just want to jump straight into it because I'm just interested to see what the arguments are going to be. Are you guys each going to take a few minutes, or is it the team gets the allocated minutes? Which way do you want to go with that?
Say
I
the
would-
team. The team.
Team,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so topic one. Let's go for storyline.
Let the old boys go first there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how are we going to do this? We're going to do a coin toss. I don't have a coin.
Let the old boys go first, as you said, yeah. Ian, do you want to take it away?
Well, look, you're going to allocate us maybe 5 minutes a piece. So if
Yeah.
you want to, you can kind of time it there because you're judging today. We're going to keep it to an hour. So look, our time starts now. I'll hand over, say my little bit, and then hand over to Carl. I think with storyline, like if you were to ask me why I think American Werewolf in London is a better storyline, I love the setting. I love the idea of American Werewolf in London, and obviously at the very, very start, you're not in London. You're the furthest, furthest way away from London you could possibly be. You're up in the mountains, basically in a shire. I love the idea of the two boys obviously coming over because it makes sense. Two lads, two rich kind of, mouthy kind of Americans. No offense to the American listeners, kind of coming over, full of piss and vinegar. Find themselves in a kind of a really, really kind of backwood rural British town somewhere like Plymouth, and they're basically trying to get rest for the night. I just love the whole kind of I don't want to get into atmosphere yet because that'll be points that we'll bring up later, but in terms of the storyline, the idea that they're just literally going in for a bit of shelter and kind of rub people up the wrong way in this kind of well, I wouldn't consider it a shitty little pub. We're all countrymen ourselves. We know those little small pubs, small town pubs where everyone looks around and go, "You're really from here, mate?" So I love that kind of how it sets out, and then the story begins. That they fuck them out on their ear, basically, the poor guys, and you're one behind the bars, kind of saying, "Lads, come on, we got to help them here." They know what's up, so it really kind of gets straight into it. It's very, very kind of dark in that sense. We pretty much hear something in the woods straight off, and Carl, this is where I'm going to hand over to you from where the storyline evolves from there.
Yeah, you really start to see shit kicking off here with the werewolf, and basically, I mean, what I love about it is that it feels okay, it was made in 1981, but it feels natural, just the way that it's that the way the werewolf ravages Jack. It's just nasty, but again, the storyline moves quite quickly for the time that it is and the time that's in it, but you get everything in it. It hits all the right points. You don't need to overexpose anything in it. So in terms of storyline, there might be better storylines out there, but I just love how it flows. It flows, through London. You get to see everything about London. It's just
I would make the case as well for Carl as well that when you're bringing in storyline into it, Aron, I think there's not much filler in this movie. Do you know what I mean? It's the right amount of time.
Yeah.
There's not much filler. A lot of movies, sometimes you could shave off 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes here or there. And I think with this movie, like Carl mentioned, there's not really a need to kind of add anything else to this. This is why I think it's almost a perfect werewolf movie. Yeah.
It's also got more, and don't get me wrong, I think everyone here likes Dog Soldiers as well as American Werewolf. Do you know what I mean? But the fact that there's so many memorable lines in American Werewolf in London compared to Dog Soldiers, that to me drives a good storyline.
Yep.
And that's basically
and that's all we got. And that's all we got to say about that.
Yeah, it's in terms of storyline. Yeah, as I said, there might be more detailed storylines out there. Or when you're talking about in terms of a werewolf film, let's be honest, like horror movies haven't been kind to werewolves, really. When you compare them to vampires.
Shamefully so. Shamefully.
Yeah. So what we get with this is it's a really tight, compact storyline. You know, and like, I mean, we've talked about this film to death on this show, so there's no point in me regurgitating about it. But what you do get is a really good, tight, good moving, concise movie, you know. And I think
the storyline is pivotal to where it starts and where it ends, you know what I mean? Because it moves swiftly along, as Carl said, but it's a storyline I think that anybody, this is what I'm going to close out with, that anybody from, you know, mid-teens to like even older adults can, you know, sink their teeth into. So there you go.
There you go, that's it.
Well done, baby.
You guys, if you didn't have a timer up when you were like spot on, I think it's like bonus points for that. 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Get up with that.
That's pretty good going.
Lads.
Right then, lads. So, fairly compelling argument for a fairly iconic movie. I think the name American Werewolf in London and just that cover art kind of does a lot for that film as like being this iconic piece. So I'm actually interested to see how the lads are going to, I guess, change the conversation towards one of my personally favorite movies, Dog Soldiers.
You want to kick off, Greg, or?
What more can you say? Basically, the lads have said there that their story is fairly simple. This story is very simple. Special ops and what was supposed to be a training exercise to not get caught and break the lines turns into a game of chicken and a game of staying alive, basically. The unarmed amateurs go in to try and stop the special ops, and well, the special ops have something else in mind. They're using them as bait, and then when they get taken out by the extremely smart werewolves, it all becomes bone, as they say, which means not very good. They find themselves in a house, which is basically a survival house in the woods, which is used in so many iconic movies, but you very rarely see it with a werewolf. Especially to use it in a creature feature, which is my personal favorite in terms of subgenres of horror. So when you bring it in to woods, house, creature feature, you've got a winner. You want to go ahead, Ted?
Yeah, as the lad said, it's a fairly simple storyline. You're brought out basically two teams brought out, but one of them well more equipped. But even before that, you're introduced to the idea that there's something out in those moors, in those woods, because we see a couple on, like, not so much a getaway, but are, like, you know, they're out staying in a tent, and then they hear kind of some snarling and stuff outside, and we see the attack on the tent, and, you know, the tent gets ripped open, and then they get dragged out, and then we see the special ops, and they kind of realize that, hang on, this isn't the normal training exercise. Something else is out here, and it's not the boys that are following us around, because we're military trained. We know what the sound of a human following us sounds like, and what something else following us sounds like. And it's the intelligence that they go with for the werewolves in this that adds to the storyline. They're not just brutes that just attack the first thing they see. They're smart. Like, they round you up into a location where they can attack, and the boys only get out the first time because they're saved by what looks to be the heroine in the film at the start. She comes out, she drives out, and she saves them, brings them to this cabin in the woods, which we later learn is the home of the werewolves, and that she's in on it the whole time. But you don't get that from the start. You believe that she's just out there to save them. So the storyline is built off the premise of, okay, somebody's here to save us, and they've brought us here. And then now what she hasn't actually done is saved you, is she's locked you in. You're now stuck. So it's a bunch of army lads stuck in a small little house trying to defend themselves throughout what ends up being the second night, because obviously the first night they're escaping, the second night she gets them there. So it's a 2-day story really, and that's why it's so compact and so quick. And by the end of it, you get everything that you want from an army sort of film with werewolves in it. Your captain sacrifices himself, and only 1 or 2 people ever make it out in the end.
And there's some good humor in there too.
Yeah, the good British humor in it as well. Yeah.
Liam Cunningham as well. Sorry.
Liam Cunningham is one of the ultimate bad guys. Sean Pertwee's in it as well. He's the Sarge.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin McKidd is a man from Grey's Anatomy. He went on to do that from there. Not that I watched that, but I know it.
No. Yeah, I think for me, like, there's a lot of similarities between the two films, and I know people will probably get offended by me maybe saying that.
Yeah.
But they both kind of have I guess a comedic aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
They both have a very simple story, I think, as well. There's very little required because I think there's so much creativity and there's so much in the actual movie itself that it doesn't really require this big, massive, elaborate backstory and all this like build up. We just kind of get into it and it's just like bang, bang, bang.
Quick,
There's
yeah.
never really a moment. Yeah, I think both have that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, based on that comedy thing, the guy, I can't remember his name, your man who directed American Werewolf, he made his bones as a comedy director. Like that's what he was before he took on this project. Like,
very, very good director too.
He did. He did Thriller as well. Michael Jackson's Thriller.
That's right, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Blues Brothers.
Him and Vincent Price.
Do you know how I know that? Because I'm old enough to have had that.
I had that video as well.
I had that movie on VHS. Yeah. It's
like half an hour long.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Brilliant.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that I will put to that is that as good as John Landis is bringing the humor in, this was Neil Marshall's first movie as well. So to make something like this on your first directorial entrance.
So I think we won that round because I got the lads to go over time there, didn't I?
Well,
you involved yourself in their conversation.
I just said Liam Cunningham. I just said Liam Cunningham. Just appreciating a fellow Irishman, that's all.
Yeah, you also threw yourself into our debate, so that should be disqualification.
You were actually over the 5 minutes when I said Liam Cunningham,
So what we'll do is we'll go with a draw on that one because I started talking at about 4.5 minutes in, which I think brought us straight over. One thing I will say actually on the point of that, I do think Dog Soldiers does maybe get a little extra brownie point for the fact that I think that had a budget of like maybe 2 million.
2.8 million ahead.
And American Werewolf, I think, had 5 times that.
It was 5.8.
5.8.
Yeah.
So I think that he was able to pull that off, and like Greg said, it being his first movie, it's I suppose look at it.
Could I say one thing? At the same time, the technology available at 1981 would have been significantly lower than what would have been available at the time that movie was made. Just as maybe a possible equalizer.
Does that affect the storyline though?
Well, the storyline, I mean, it's obvious that,
Does technology
wins.
The technology doesn't mean anything.
Technology doesn't affect the storyline though.
No, but budget doesn't affect.
I didn't bring the budget up.
Yeah.
One thing I will say to you boys is that you don't actually see a transformation as good as the one in American Werewolf.
Oh well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
No,
come on. Let's come on. Aron, take control of this.
You're jumping the gut here.
Aron, take control of this.
I brought some stuff into that I probably shouldn't have. Okay, so let's move on, I guess, to round 2 then, which would be effects, design, and I would suppose with maybe a specific look at creature design as well.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
Let the kids go. Yeah, let the kids go first.
Will I go Ted or will I?
You go ahead first, Craig. I'll go second. Yeah.
Counting.
So you want to talk about transformation, right? Great. That's the only thing this movie has, because the werewolf is very outdated now for American Werewolf. In this, it's a different werewolf. It is a very different werewolf. This is more of a dogman werewolf. They're upright. They're 7-8 feet tall. They're smart, quick, strong. They hunt in packs, and they will isolate people left, right, and center. They use their surroundings very well. The special effects, like, as far as I was going, they didn't need to put a transformation in this, because if you know you can't make the transformation happen, you don't do it. Because if you get a transformation wrong, you fuck up the movie. So the tiny bits of the transformation you do see in this is very good. Obviously, you see the girl's eyes changing and her teeth starting to grow, and then she takes one in the forehead. Liam Cunningham changing, and you can see the pain he's in, and like all the spit coming out of his mouth, and then he appears up. Which I think, if you know you're not going to do it well, don't do it at all. Or if you don't have the budget to do it, don't do it. Ted?
Yeah, I think that is really what happens here, is that there is a budget constraint on, you know, how long you can hire somebody for doing makeup artistry and stuff to make someone look like a werewolf, to get those shots in. So I think they did make the decision here that they went, we'll do what we can with a facial, you know, eyes turning yellow, teeth elongating, and then we'll just let them drop to all fours behind a table or whatever, and then they come up and they're the full werewolf. You also see Sean Putri. He doesn't actually ever end up transforming, but you see the pain that it puts him through while he is transforming, before he obviously blows the house up, which is a great special effect in itself. I know it's not particularly the werewolf special effect, but it is a very good special effect how they've done the house blown up. They also do go with showing you the werewolves while they're fighting, which is something that you don't see too often. Normally with a werewolf attack, they give you a cut of the werewolf, and then it jumps on the other person, then it cuts away, and then the other person's left on the ground bloodied and battered. You don't actually see them, you know, physically like attack. Like, you see the attack happen, but it's cut scenes here, there, and everywhere. Which they went a little bit different here. Obviously, a werewolf that can swing punches and then gets stabbed a whole lot of times, and then just grabs you by the throat, rips your head off with its mouth, and throws it at some other lad's car. So I think special effects can be affected by budget, but I think with the budget they had, the boys did very well for what they did have here.
Even the bodily parts, when they rip Sarge open, when his guts are hanging out.
Yeah, it's all very well done. Yeah.
Oh, my insides are out. Well, we'll put them back in. Like, the humor that comes with it is part of it.
Yeah, I feel like actually on the topic of humor and even that scene alone, they done a really good job of getting across that kind of I suppose Irish English kind of
and that's the reason it didn't do so well in America.
That, yeah, you have a fair point.
Movies like that don't do well in America. Same as Lock, Stock, and things like that.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, and even on the I went crazy there a couple of years ago for rewatching movies and then listening to all the commentary tracks. And I know that Dog Soldiers actually there's a commentary track on the Region 2, which would be the Irish and UK version. That was, I think, Neil Marshall, Liam Cunningham, and there's a couple of the other guys that are all on it, and it's basically when they were recording it, I think they were all drinking cans of Stella. They actually made them re-record it for the US release and took that one off US release. And I think
Stella
that maybe
will do that.
I think maybe like the lads were just having a bit too much crack, like, and they just thought this is just not gonna.
The old wife beaters got put on like during the drinking of Stella, and like no women were harmed during this during the film of this commentary.
Any closing thoughts then? Any closing arguments?
Well, they've gone. Yeah. Oh, for me.
No, for them.
They've had 10 minutes on this one now. Come on.
No, I think we've made our points. Like, if we're going to do counterpoints to other people's stuff, we'll do them at the end of theirs.
Yeah. I I personally, yeah, that was good. We're gonna have to step up the game on that one. That was good, lads. Well done.
So
Right.
yeah, I guess I throw it over to you guys. Definitely a bit of emphasis, I suppose, on creature design, effects, and then just overall, I suppose, design, atmosphere, set, and stuff like that.
Only thing I'll say before Carl takes the lead is that I agree with what the lads were saying. I think that Dogman is 100% spot on, because myself and Greg are both kind of Sasquatch nerds and Dogman nerds, because we listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like on that. So I would agree, and Ted made a really good point that I think the Dog Soldiers ones are a little bit, they're probably more in line with the kind of the Sasquatch thing and the Dogman thing, that they hunt in packs and they kind of know what to do. They're quite intelligent. You know what I mean? I'm sure Greg would agree with that, because obviously, you know, that's what we like to listen to. Good old Wes. Shout out to Wes.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Whereas I think here, this is why I'm going to hand it over to Carl. I think in this one, you're looking at a more traditional werewolf, but at the time, not like the Wolfman. You know what I mean? An actual werewolf that walks on all fours. And, you know, Carl, take it away, because this is your baby when it comes to...
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
This.
So look, the name, look, and again, this is not to take anything away from Dog Soldiers. It's a great film, right?
Amazing.
But the name is in the clue is in the name, werewolf. Okay, what I mean by that is, yeah, the werewolf in Dog Soldiers looked great, but they looked like they were made by. What I mean by is, one of the lads said, right, give me your favorite superhero and make him into a werewolf. You know, like an 8 foot tall, you know, able to, you know, werewolves are beasts, like absolutely savage beasts, and that's what, like, the beast takes over. What I mean by that is, then, like, the werewolves in Dog Soldiers are too clever, in my opinion. You know, because when they change, they lose all control. That's why you see other werewolf films, they wake up, they haven't a clue what they're doing. You know, now, in terms of, you know, the werewolf in America, London, that was groundbreaking, and I know that's a bit unfair to bring that up, but it was groundbreaking, and that laid the foundation for everything else that went after it, and it's been often been it won the very first Oscar for best makeup. It was makeup, I think. Yeah, it did. It won the award for that. It was the very first one to get it. So with that kind of weight behind it, in terms of design, it's just I mean, it looks terrifying as well. That face is terrifying. That picture I have up behind me, that was up in the video store when I was a kid, and that terrified me. You know, like that, like everything about that werewolf screams icon. You know, yeah, fair enough. The big tall werewolves as a pack might be able to destroy the castle wolf, but when that thing's on a rampage out in Piccadilly Circus, that's chaos, and it looks chaos. And look at all the chaos that it causes with just one. Now imagine if there was a pack of those werewolves, you know. So it's pure, unadulterated rage and aggression and hate. And the way it, like when you see it in the porno theater, and you only briefly see it when it's chowing down on your man, and you just see the red mess all over the place. Yeah, fair enough. It's not as mad looking, and fair play to the lads. They did well with the budgets that they had, but at the time, again, like American Werewolf in London was 1981, and you know they did break new ground with that.
And I think going on the special effects thing as well, I'll just chime in on that, because obviously that scene, that's not really all that this has, as Greg alluded to. Like, you know, you see the hands and you see the feet transform. I mean, that scene is iconic. It's one of the best fucking scenes in any movie ever. But also, you know, you want to talk about special effects, the whole idea when your man is running through the tube and you can only kind of barely see it. But then when you see that this motherfucker's on all fours, this is a proper actual werewolf and chasing him, up the escalator or whatever. I think those effects are really kind of underrated also. You know what I mean? Because they made it look huge. They made it look terrifying. It wasn't just like a guy in a suit kind of deal. I think the camera work in this movie in particular, because of the time, really kind of shone through. They knew what angles to go at to make it look terrifying. They knew what kind of so I think it wasn't just all about special effects. I think it was also the camera work on this, which kind of, I know it lends itself to both movies, to be fair. That's why this is such a tight one. But I just think for the time, where there wasn't any kind of CGI things that you could do or anything, effects, the quality of camera probably wasn't as good. So I just think, for me, that's what just shades it.
And then before we finish up our presentation, we even didn't talk about Jack, the way he's decomposing in parts. The part where you see him freshly destroyed and the bit of flesh flipping off him while he's eating the toast. That wasn't actually meant to happen, but it just looks so real. Yeah. Now, fair enough, when he looks like a puppet, that's fair enough. But very good, very smart makeup and special effects. Yeah. And I think that should be enough there.
Yeah.
Ooh, 5 minutes and 1 second.
Ooh!
I don't know,
without interruptions, in fairness, I think we've considering on the first one we were 4 minutes and 50 seconds. I think we're allowed.
Yeah, actually true. Yeah, so if we talk it that way,
I'm definitely a politician.
I was just going to say that
you're as corrupt as fuck. Exactly. I wonder why you support Chelsea.
That's a different podcast.
Saudi
couldn't help that one.
I suppose both compelling arguments. I'm still I'm sitting here now going.
I've got one point that I'll make about.
Oh, you made your points. That's it.
Yeah, news countered to ours. We said we'd make it at the end. You're talking about the chaos that comes in Piccadilly Circus, right?
Yeah.
This is a werewolf, a creature that doesn't actually exist, right? If you release a tiger into Piccadilly Circus, it causes the same chaos.
This is an automatic disqualification now. This is an automatic disqualification, surely. Because it's...
No. Let him. Yeah, that's fine.
Use came in on the back of
that's fair enough.
I said Liam Cunningham, as in appreciation.
Don't worry about that.
Did you come in and say something?
That was the last section. Yeah. Greg, what I will say to you is, fair enough, a tiger would cause that much chaos. No, it wouldn't, because a werewolf is 10 times, well, if it was real, it'd be 10 times more aggressive and vicious than a tiger, because it's just pure hate. It's pure. It's not that it's scared, it's just
that
hate.
That werewolf doesn't look any bigger than a tiger. Simple.
And it does.
When you look
at it,
does
not look any bigger. When he attacks the lads in the cinema, he's standing over the dead body, right? Or he's chewing down on it. And there's parts of it. He's not much bigger than that.
They couldn't get a bigger guy at the time, though. That's what I'm saying.
But that's the thing. Do you know what I mean?
Andre the Joint wasn't available.
Well, so what, you settle for Fezzik in the corner.
Anyway, we're really going over time here with Aron. Aron, give us your thoughts there.
Control these lads, Aron.
Again, two super compelling arguments, and every time I hear one, I'm like, okay, right, I'm swayed, and then I hear the contrary, and I'm like, oh shit. Now we're going the other way again, and I'm like, there is a very I think a fine line there, like you guys said. I don't think werewolves have really been represented that well.
Oh, they've been terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I think that these are definitely the two that are at the pinnacle. Probably
Silver Bullet.
That are actually worthwhile. I've seen so many werewolf movies, but they're just
muck.
Oh, they're desperate, aren't they?
Silver Bullet, 100%.
Yeah, this Silver Bullet.
Howling.
The Howling's very, very, very good. Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah, and then obviously the original Wolfman from Universal. but that's
And
completely
the Hammer version with it.
The Hammer one was very good.
Was great, yeah.
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 But I
Okay.
think these two are kind of streets ahead of most of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree. Yeah.
So I think for me, there's two arguments to be had there. Does the fact that American Werewolf in London managed to pull off what they did back in the early 80s gain more, or does the fact that, you know, somebody in their first feature with a you could call it low budget managed to pull off what he pulled off? And I think we've only got one real category left, and maybe I might throw in a little bonus thing at the end. So we're going to go for a tiebreaker on this one again, so it's going to bring us right into the end. So this last section on impact, and then I have a little, I guess, a bonus thing is gonna see who's going to win this thing out. Okay, so Greg, you went first the last time?
Yeah.
All right, and so Carol and Ian next. Yeah, I guess just speak to the impact, I suppose, of the film, and I guess everything that's come after the fact.
Yeah. Will I start off, Ian, or do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. American Werewolf in London, everybody knows it. Every horror fan knows. I know every horror fan knows Dog Soldiers, but almost every horror fan will have seen American Werewolf in London when they were a kid or when they were, you know, in their teens or whatever the case may be. The impact on this film has on horror movies is this is generally seen as the werewolf film. This is the one. Yeah, fair enough. Dog Soldiers is great. I've said it several times, so you can't take that away from me. It is brilliant. But it's not the werewolf film.
I think that and The Howling are both, you know what I mean, were the original. Yeah, to be fair.
Well, it's just a case of what the way this represents a werewolf is, to me, and Ian, is the best way you can. If anyone said to me, "What's the best werewolf film you could show me?" I'd show them American Werewolf in London. But yeah, the impact that it's had. Everyone tried. It was like a moment in time where Rick Baker was able to create something special, and with such natural ability, like, you know. So you look at werewolves down the line, and their CGI and their ridiculous looking. You look at that underworld crap, you know. Unfortunately, the Lycans in that are awful, you know. Yeah, absolutely. I hold my hand up. Dog Soldiers, the werewolves look great. They look great. They do.
So does Kate Beckinsale, sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you're talking about, like, there's so many iconic scenes that everybody remembers from American Werewolf in London. The tube station, the chain, the actual transformation, the lads walking on the moors, you know, where the moors keep off, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's so much that everyone remembers and loves about this film.
The slaughtered lamb, even.
Slaughtered lamb, exactly.
You know,
there's so much
little details.
So much detail, iconography, and memorable bits of this film. As I said, that chaos in Piccadilly Circus. My daughter went to Piccadilly Circus and she was like, "Is this where that was?" My daughter's 15, I just know, right? So when she went to Piccadilly Circus, she was trying to work out where it was going on, you know. So it's got an everlasting legacy, I feel. Maybe in time Dog Soldiers will, but just at this moment in time, and comparing it to American Werewolf in London, nah, in my opinion.
Okay, cultural impact. I'm going to bring it in here. I think the fact that it was one of the first movies where you were actually seeing those practical effects, where, you know, we transcended then into the 80s, where we saw it in a lot of movies, you know, both low budget and high budget. I think those scenes that Carol kind of mentioned there, you know, the change, that really showed how you could do that practical stuff, you know what I mean, and do it, you know, some did it well, some not so well, but it was definitely a feature of the 80s. And if you're a creature of nostalgia, like all of us, basically, not just like myself, you can see the cultural impact that this movie had on what came after it. Because don't forget, a lot of this, I believe, started in like late 79 into 1980 as well, you know what I mean? So it's not like this isn't your mid 80s feature. It's 100% like late 70s, early 80s, proper early 80s. So that it was ahead of its time in that sense. So I think that's where the impact really comes in. You know, they tried to follow on with American Werewolf in Paris and stuff. And look, it's an okay movie. I can watch it. You know what I mean? I find it fun.
I can't
Personally. You know, it's just I'm kind of like Aron. I don't always judge it to what came before. I just look at it for its own unique kind of entity. So look, that's where I'm going to leave it, because I know we're probably nearly at time. So
here we go.
You're actually a little bit shy again. You had 30 seconds left, but I will cut in there and say, even with American Werewolf in Paris, I actually only rewatched that recently. Again, now look, it's a completely separate thing, and
of
I don't
course
think they were ever going to be able to follow that up again.
Yeah.
I suppose I feel like, I guess that category in a way is a little bit unfair, because
it's very unfair. That's why we said it at the start.
Like, the minute you say impact, even me, straight away I'm thinking, yeah, American Werewolf in London, like, by far seems like it's had this like huge cultural impact on a lot of different things. Whereas Dog Soldiers, I feel like, wasn't really given the time of day in a lot of ways, and is kind of, I guess, garnered a more cult kind of smaller following. And I don't think, unfortunately, that it'll ever probably be able to grow to the extent that American Werewolf in London has.
I'm willing to be a team player on this one, though, because I understand the impact is probably a little bit.
Yeah, it was probably a bit much.
So
and the fact that you didn't tell us that you were putting that in.
Well,
I thought I did actually.
This is why I'm stepping in now. Come on. I think to the adjudicator, he can decide yay or nay. Maybe it should be, because we have stated our cases, myself and Carl, as to why we think it's culturally impactful, and obviously, you know, for the timeline that it was. So maybe for you guys, you can kind of just come at it as to why you think it's up there, either with or on a par or better, you know, than Dog Soldier. So I think you guys should probably be able to just kind of talk about why it should be in the conversation. I am just pleading my case on behalf of fairness.
I was going to kind of say that maybe not on such a grand scale, but within its own
context,
and like within its own ecosystem. Like, obviously, you know, as regards a brand name and an IP, they're kind of worlds apart in a lot of ways. So I think it'd be fair kind of to maybe, if the lads kind of within context, like, of
I'm okay with that.
Well, I go there.
Yeah. So I get where you guys are coming from. Like, it's going to be very hard to judge something that's 40 years old and the impact it's had compared to something that hasn't had that time either. You know, and that's always going to be difficult. I think that the impact that Dog Soldiers did have is that between American Werewolf in London and then Dog Soldiers coming out, was there any particularly good werewolf film?
No.
Like Silver Bullet was passable.
No, Silver Bullets.
Yeah, no, Silver Bullet was good.
It's good, but it's not like, it wasn't something that people were like, that's a really good werewolf film. And I think you had American Werewolf in London, and then the werewolves had kind of, like, that genre of film had kind of fallen out because people had realized, like, we just aren't getting it. Like, we aren't hitting the heights that, you know, was met back when American Werewolf was made. American Werewolf in London, obviously not Paris. But obviously then someone came in with a low budget and they were like, I'll take a crack at it. And he did take a crack at it, and I think he did a fantastic job. And I think from there you've seen some more werewolf films kind of sneak back into things. So I suppose that's the impact, is that people have decided that, you know, all right, maybe we were wrong to think that, you know, we couldn't make a good werewolf film. Maybe we were wrong in thinking that it had been done and there was nowhere else to go with it. And I think that's the impact that Dog Soldiers has on, as a werewolf film. It's allowed the genre to kind of come back in that sense. Does it it doesn't have the transformation scene, which is like, And this isn't a knock at American Werewolf, but like that is the main selling point of American Werewolf, I would say, is that transformation scene. Like if you ask anyone about American Werewolf, that's the number one thing that people remember of the film. And like that's not a knock at it, but like it's a real positive of the film. Like that's the thing that people do remember. And because Dog Soldiers doesn't go for that, it doesn't have that iconic sort of scene. What it did do was it was allowed a new director to come in, and maybe he didn't hit the heights after that. His next film was quite good, and then it kind of petered out. But yeah, but it looked like we had a new director coming in that was really going to hit it big. So I don't know, like in terms of an impact, yeah, it hasn't had the impact maybe that American Werewolf has, but I think it has had a decent impact in allowing werewolves to kind of make their comeback into the horror genre.
This would have shown it as well, that it brought Wes Craven back to doing a werewolf movie when he done Cursed. It wasn't great, but it showed that other directors were willing to try and get behind it again. You're talking about no one having done anything for worthwhile for what, 20 years, 30 years?
It would have been about 20 years at that time, yeah.
And then you're talking about getting Wes Craven, who was either number one or number two horror director at the time. Well, at the time, John Carpenter had kind of not done it for a while.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're talking about number one, number two, and you get him to come in and do one, and like he went big budget, got Christina Ricci and all in, and didn't really work. Shows it's not an easy thing to do, but what they done with the wolves in this, making them smart, also changed the creature feature game to make creatures in creature features smarter, which makes it more terrifying that it's not just a beast going around and you can probably outsmart it. Now they're thinking. So
yeah, I think again, like I feel like it's like at loggerheads here again now, trying to judge which has more merit over the other. Okay, I'm not going to say nothing about that round then, so I'm just going to throw in something short. We don't have to take 5 minutes or whatever. I know it's kind of off the cuff or whatever. Maybe just a quick speak to atmosphere, I suppose. Scares, maybe, is the way I want to put it. Kill scenes, scares, stuff like that. Obviously, people always come to horror films to see that stuff, to see blood or guts or be afraid or a jump scare or whatever. If anything does come to mind that you think is like, I guess the closing out arguments as to why you think that your movie should win.
I'm gonna jump in on that one straight away because that was a great fucking question, and you threw a curveball there. But I thought about it. The wheels were turning. I know generally, because Dog Soldiers is a more modern movie, it has a little bit more savagery in it. I get that. You know what I mean? It's a little bit darker in the sense of you're in the woods. It's a bit more claustrophobic. Would that be the right word? In the sense that these boys are, fucking out here in the wilderness and shit. However, you got to think about timelines here. And this is where I'm coming from. If you match the two of them up in terms of timelines, absolutely, Dog Soldiers is probably just slightly ahead in terms of more impactful in terms of their kill scenes and the fact that they're kind of ravaging this pack of humans. You know what I mean? It's a pack of wolves hunting a pack of humans. So that's essentially what we've got here. Whereas I think with American Werewolf, I know that at that time from speaking to family members when that movie came out and they went to the cinema, people left. You know what I mean? Because they were just so scared. Like it's a really really good point Carl made there about Kerry's daughter. Looking around Piccadilly and like that shows the kind of impact that can have where you're like, oh shit, this is where that happened. You know what I mean? The people that remember, but the people that would be a fan of the genre. So I think when you're asked that question, you really have to put yourself in a place and time with both of those, because like for example, Dracula 1958 with Christopher Lee. Can you imagine how much that scared people back then because of the certain rules of being able to watch movies, the Catholicism within it, within the parish, as we would say. You'd probably be scalded for even caught watching a movie like that. And I think in 1981 you probably would have a similar kind of a impact that kids weren't necessarily meant to be watching this movie. I'll give you a quick 20-second story. I remember even Wolf with Jack Nicholson. I went to watch that because it was on Channel 4 one night on a Friday at 10 o'clock. My dad knew I was going to watch it. I don't know how he knew, but he rang me mad to tell me, watch him, he's not meant to watch that. And I didn't get to watch it, son of a bitches. But eventually I did, and I regretted it.
Straight to the granny's house.
Straight to the granny.
Always the granny.
Always the granny, yeah. She let me do whatever the fuck I wanted.
Let me just finish our thing before we go, because there's one scene in this film that always got me, no matter what age I am, and what I mean is I love it. It terrified me when I was a kid. I love it now, and that's the dream within a dream. Now, how cool was that? Yeah. When he's just starting to turn, and he dreams about being in the hospital, and the Nazi demons come in and just fucking slaughter his family. That's pretty intense as well. Yeah. And then he wakes you up, and your woman goes to open up the blinds, and then she gets killed again. And of course, there's a couple of jump scares there with the werewolf, which is great. Mm-hmm. But that dream within a dream sequence I think was very good, very well done, very well put out.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, that's it.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah. I think the main kind of not jump scares, but the scenes that were meant to instill terror. Obviously, when you're running through the woods and something is chasing you, you're not entirely sure what it is, but you know that something's chasing you. And I think one of the more iconic kill scenes in this that you don't see very often is in the woods, and people kind of tend to forget about it a bit now. It's when the guys are running away from the werewolves, and there's your man kind of he stops dead, and you're like, oh, the werewolves got him, and then the camera pans down and you see no, he's so terrified about what's behind him that he's literally skewered himself onto a tree branch. And that, to me, that was a brilliant scene to do. And then obviously once they're locked within the little cabin or house in the woods, there's all the meat and stuff on the plates, and then it's kind of referenced later that, oh, even when these people aren't in wolf format, they store all the bodies downstairs, and that's actually what they're eating throughout their the non-full moon as well. They're sitting there eating human flesh as well, which just adds a little bit to that. It's a bit creepier, it's because it's no longer just, oh well, we lose our minds and we attack. It's now no, we've acquired a taste of human flesh now. This is what we eat. And then obviously the scene from the back of the car, which is an absolute
Joe.
Yeah, you see the breath fogging up behind him. He's like, "You're behind me, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And then just the door opens and it's just a bloodbath. His entire body's been emptied of blood and it just pours out.
I love it. He turns around and he's like, "You're behind me, aren't you? I'll fucking have you."
Yeah. They kind of go away from trying to be all scared people. They're scared, but they're obviously army trained men. So in the face of fear, what they do is they rely on their tactics. So that kind of, they move away from everyone being terrified to being terrified originally to being, right, now we have a plan and we have a foothold. But at the same time, none of the boys ever seem like they're confident that they're getting out of here alive either, which I think is a very good way to go when you're doing it as an army style film.
One of the things I love here is where Ted said where your man skewers himself when Sarge finds him. You can see the glint in his eye, and you can see the wolf taking him.
Yeah,
and it's little things like that. It's if you missed the opening credit scene here, this movie looks like a war movie. It starts out, it's lending itself pretty much to a Predator kind of style, where you don't see much for half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe about half an hour, and then they take off and they ramp it up, big style. Where American Werewolf, when you see Jack getting slaughtered at the start, you think this is only going to get gorier from here, and it kind of every kill in that movie is flash to fade away kind of kills.
Except when your man slits David Kessel's throat in the thicken in the dream. It's like that's quite it's quite frontal.
For me, that like I know I have issues with certain movies and certain things. That dream thing with the Nazis, werewolves is just kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
Amazing, yeah. It's such a different. It just goes like in a completely different direction.
I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing with it. Do you know that kind of way?
Bit of both.
Yeah, like as I bring up all the time about Texas Chainsaw with the granddad. It's one of them scenes where I'm looking at it going, like, I understand the double dream, which is fine if you had the werewolf attack him, but why have them come in as Nazis? It's different if the story had him as a soldier coming back from World War II or whatever, or Nazis were still a thing. But they threw things into it that didn't need it. Now, it was great that they didn't use savagery all the time, the same way Jaws done it. But sometimes when you go to a horror movie, you need it more than just the opening scene, really. Not the opening scene, but the opening death scene.
Well, let's pass it over to the judge now, because we're down to the last like 5 minutes. So
I'm calling it a draw.
And you know what? And I was like, is it a fair thing to do? Is it not? I mean, for me, looking at storyline, I would probably have to go with American Werewolf of London, just solely based off the fact that I think as a singular film, it's maybe feels like a more complete story. Like I don't want to say you didn't want to know more, but you kind of got everything that it was about all within that window. Whereas I think the only failing of Dog Soldiers there, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it was like I felt like I wanted to know more, maybe, and the fact that we never got to explore that lore maybe a little bit. If you were to look at it from that aspect, it's like, okay, it's not a complete.
Can I just make a counterpoint to the American Werewolf point on that then? And I find American Werewolf is very rushed in getting from its story, in that the story is told over a month, right? But for 3 weeks of the month, he's out cold in a bed. And within the week of him waking up, believing he's a werewolf, the doctors not only go, there's nothing wrong with him other than the fact that this guy bloody thinks he's a werewolf, just let him go. She's fallen, the two of them have told each other that they love each other within 2 days of knowing each other.
Summer romance.
And then, well, it's a bit different to a summer romance. They're like telling each other they love each other, and like it's crippled her to see him. Like, you know, if you think about it in like a sort of logical way of like, oh, I met this girl or met this boy or whatever.
2 minutes, Ted. 2 minutes, Ted. Like, no tangents.
No, but I'm like, if you met someone, you're like, oh, I like this person, and then it turned out, oh, they're actually, you know, they're a horrible beast that's killed a lot of people. You wouldn't be like, no, I'm still deeply, madly in love with them. And then it fairly ends fairly quickly. Now, I don't know how they all managed to shoot around her when she's standing directly in front of the wolf, and they all shoot their bullets magically around her and hit him. But for me, it's very... The story from there, it's very rushed because they wanted to get to that point. It felt like they spent a lot of their budget on their the transformation, and then we're like, oh, we've kind of got to the end and we have no more money. Let's get it over with here.
Well, Aron, I'm going to counter his point by bringing back a point that one of this team actually said earlier. They're not even werewolves; they're dog men. So
I did not say that.
Yep, it's here.
No, I said they're more like they're still a werewolf,
and the word dog is in it.
They are also referred to as werewolves.
But in our film, it actually says American Werewolf in London. So there we go.
And what does that mean? Cursed is
your team has already had a counterpoint now. Come on.
No, you tried to bring in something I've said.
Yeah, but that's how debates work.
I'm still going to go with my original thoughts there, and I'm going to give that point to American Werewolf in London. I think for impact, I think I want to just scrap that altogether because I feel like there's just too much of a discrepancy between the two films to even not be biased in one way.
Which is fair. That is fair.
Going on to, I guess, jump scares, kill scenes. For me, it would have to be Dog Soldiers. I just feel like it's a bit more. It seems a bit more gritty, maybe. Now I know that there is definitely a different tone to American Werewolf in London. But there's just something about Dog Soldiers that has that. I guess as far-fetched as the idea of watching a werewolf film, there's something that seems quite real about like watching these lads, and you know, they don't know what to do and everyone's panicking, his guts are hanging out. It just, I don't know, there's something about the way it's shot as well. Everything's like damp and wet and dark, and maybe it's being from this part of the world as well. You can kind of relate to that maybe feeling of like,
considering it's 40 minutes away.
yeah, it's just like that grim feeling and being in the woods. Now that's not to take anything away from American Werewolf in London. I do think there's a lot of really good scenes that could probably trump some of the stuff in Dog Soldiers, but I just think maybe the shift sometimes between the more comedic side and then back to Dog Soldiers. If I was to go for straight scares, I would probably go with Dog Soldiers.
That's fair.
What's the result?
So then the last category we had again, like, and it just feels like I don't know, because they have so many things to merit, would be, you know, makeup, special effects, creature design, and they're much of a muchness in a lot of ways. I mean, American Werewolf is obviously, it is iconic. Like, I mean, no matter what way you cut that, it is like, and what they've done at the time was absolutely, even now still to think about that, was absolutely crazy. I've been to Universal in Orlando a lot, and they still show it in the horror makeup show. The American Werewolf in London stuff, they still have the werewolf heads as part of the show. I mean, that kind of, I think, speaks a little bit to you know, how iconic it is. While, you know, the flip side of that is Dog Soldiers, for what they had and to be able to pull off what they did, I don't think, you know, if you were to look at that now, you'd realize that it was his first film. There was a lot of people on that. It was their first time working on anything like this, and how little money they had, I suppose, and the fact that, you know, it came from the UK, from a relatively unknown filmmaker, and, you know, to make the movie they made, I think is quite incredible.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would put that as 0.5 each, which leaves us at a draw. So I'm going to propose something that we leave it there, and I'm going to come up with some sort of a unique or interesting idea to have the two teams pit against each other again soon.
Well,
I'm good at that.
Before you finish that, I actually was on the phone to Ted beforehand, right? Before we came on, and now I'm going to issue the challenge. All right?
Nice, I like this.
Carl, I'm challenging you again on a movie, and you know exactly where we're going with this.
Go on, spit it out.
I have someone in this group that prefers a 2003 version to your 1978 version.
Yeah, so how would that be fair?
Because I will ask Aron to be my partner for this one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Carl gets to pick his partner out of the two lads, or are we going to have to decide who actually likes the film?
Well, Carl can pick if he wants. I just know you prefer the 2003 one.
I'd be willing to die on that.
We'll have a talk about that off camera. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll take up that challenge.
You know, as Bret Hart said back in the day when Stu Hart was in the ring, he said, "Well, I'll ask my dad to be my tag team partner."
Yeah.
If you're, I'm happy to do that and let Ted judge this one.
It's just a bit weird that Aron had decided to come out with that challenge when I had literally said it to Ted probably an hour ago.
Yeah, about an hour ago. You said I'm going to challenge Carl.
I think this lends itself for me to close out the show now, because there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Organic, pure-blooded, on the slab, red meat, blood and guts. Aron has talked himself into a shoot here now without even knowing that he was talking himself into a shoot. Greg has basically said, "Yep, he's gonna team up with Aron we'll probably do it in the next couple of weeks. I think actually.
I think so. Yeah.
I'd say give it about a month.
I'd say 2 weeks is perfect. 2 weeks is perfect.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks' time, you heard it here first. Myself and Carl are going to be teaming up once again. I don't know when this team is going to like break and divide because Greg's a very shrewd man. He'll use.
Yeah, he dropped you quick enough there, Ted, didn't he?
He'll use me for something at some point when it benefits him, and I'm okay with that.
I'm a shrewd operator. See, Ted's kind of more impartial to this one. Exactly. I know Aron likes the 03 one.
But the thing is, Ted this time is going to get to be judge, jury, and adjudicator, and but he's going to have a lot of stepping up to do to match Aron today. Aron, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, on. Aron, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. Congratulations on all the success and the sponsorships and stuff.
And same to you, my brother.
Honestly, I'm actually I feel like the pressure is going to be off me next time that we all get together because that's an unusual place to be, to kind of like both those films and then not be able to. A lot of you guys made arguments there that I was like, oh yeah, actually no, I prefer that movie.
Well, Ted, and of course, Ted, thank you as well for stepping up as always. People have been talking shit about how Dog Soldiers isn't on par with the Werewolf. I was like, well,
fuck those guys.
I won't be letting anybody say it's not at least on par. I prefer it myself, mainly due to what Aron said, that I find it a grittier showing, which is what I like in a horror. I like that kind of grit and close camera. American Werewolf is very cleanly shot,
and as well as that. Like, we're all in agreement that we all like both films.
I definitely like both. Just I prefer a grittier style for this type of film.
I do have to make the statement there that what I said about the Wolf not aging well, I used that to try and get a point.
Yeah. No, well, look. I am of the same opinion. I found it quite hard because Carl kind of he basically got me and said, yep, you're on my team on this one, and I said, yeah, absolutely, because I do technically prefer it a little bit, but watching the two movies back to back this weekend, I was the same. I was like, I could have been chosen on either team on this one. I just had to try and use my kind of charm and debate skills to see, because I probably
if you had to put me up, if you had to put Dog Soldiers up against any other werewolf film, you could have had me entertained.
Like you could have turned around and said, right, Ted is joining Carl on this one, you know what I mean? And I'd have pretty much made the same points that Greg and Ted would have made for Dog Soldiers.
I'll back the bias.
yeah, you know what I mean? So, but look, lads, once again, it's been absolutely phenomenal. Don't forget, like we said, today's show has been brought to you by Fright Rags, literally the best horror clothing company on the planet. Make sure you go by a country mile. Make sure you go to frightrags.com and use our promo code OTS Horror 10 for an unreal discount, and make sure you get in bulk, lads, because it's coming from the States. So use that, and it's gonna really add up, and you're gonna get something that's gonna make you very happy and will last for a long time. So until next week, once again, thank you to our host for the day, Aron. Unbelievable.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait to do it again.
Great job, my friend, and we're going to put all your links down in the description as well. And thanks to the boys once again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, make sure you comment and hit that like button, bell notification for updates. It is always horror night on Friday, and until next week, we are over and out.